So good morning, good afternoon and good evening, and thank you very much for joining MSAB for our latest webinar. A new way to train in mobile forensics is on the horizon. So today we're very fortunate to have two of our technical training team with us here today, who are going to present the changes and the why as to why MSAB has rebranded to MSAB Training Academy. For those of you who have joined our webinars before and know the platform, you'll be aware that there's some emoji buttons that you can press at the bottom to react to the webinar as we go through. Please feel free to press as you wish. And in the top right of your screen, you'll see that there is a chat tab, a Q&A tab, a polls and a handout tab. Please feel free to chat amongst yourselves during the chat. The chat is completely anonymous. And if you have any questions for our presenters as we're going through today, please pop them in the Q&A and I will answer them and moderate that part of the webinar. And I'll present them to our presenters as and when the opportunity arises. The polls are there for you to complete. If you would take the time to have a look at them, answer them, they do help us, and you'll learn from this webinar that it's your feedback that we respond to. And finally, the handout section. The handout section is going to have all of the downloadable PDFs for the course literature from our new MSAB Training Academy. So for those of you unaware, I'm Adam Furman. I'm a tech evangelist with MSAB, and you'll probably likely know my voice from our weekly tip videos on MSAB Monday. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our two presenters today, our two technical trainers. Over to you, Sean and Chris.
Thanks, Adam. As Adam said, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be in the world. And welcome to this webinar brought to you by the MSAB Training Academy. My name's Sean Sutcliffe. I'm the Senior Technical Trainer here at MSAB. I've been with the company for over 14 years now, and I've delivered well over 200 training courses in over 20 countries worldwide. Prior to working at MSAB, I served with the UK military for 25 years, 20 years in military intelligence, and the last 5 in digital forensics. And I was involved in training people in both parts of my military career. Over to you, Chris.
Cheers, Sean. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Denley, a technical trainer at MSAB, and I've been with MSAB for just over a year now. Before joining MSAB, I was with the Metropolitan Police for over 15 years, transitioning from a counter-terrorism digital forensics unit. I have a background in teaching and was really grateful when I had the opportunity to join the MSAB training team. And already within a year of being with MSAB, I could see where the training was heading and the changes which have begun. I hope you will all find this webinar useful and informative in relation to the updates we have made for MSAB training going forward.
So the first thing that you may notice is that the MSAB training department has had something of a makeover, and we are now the MSAB Training Academy. It's not wholesale changes, but we have improved the way we implement training, and we'll be releasing clearly defined pathways, whether you extract data, analyze data, or do both. And we come with a new motto, which you will see on some of the slides as we go through them. I'm not going to attempt the Latin, but the translation says, learn or fall behind. So a new way to train is on the horizon. And in conjunction with this, the training part of the MSAB website will be rolled out in the near future, and you can read about the improvements that we're going to be implementing. One of the things we'll be implementing will be clearly defined prerequisites for certain courses to provide course-to-course cohesion, but only the advanced courses will require previous training.
Yeah, and we are constantly reviewing our courses, continuously always looking for ways to improve the content we provide within these courses to ensure that forensic practitioners are well equipped with the knowledge and skills they need to carry out their day-to-day job. We also are striving towards ensuring that the content is resonating with our customers so that they can apply the necessary capabilities of our forensic tools to their advantage and to help them capture and find the evidence seamlessly. And we have been listening closely to our customers, not only in the classroom, but from our peers who support our customers on a daily or weekly basis. And we continue to review this feedback to adapt our service and ensure that we are up to date with the forever evolving new challenges that digital forensics continue to present us. We are already proud of the feedback we receive in classroom and from the front line, and we want to continue this excellent service by continuing to improve our training and support, not only for now, but also definitely for the future. So with this in mind, we are aware that the content within these courses is increasing to keep in line with the current challenges that we come across, along with our solutions to overcome them. But we also need to manage the time we have to effectively teach this without the courses becoming an information overload.
Adam, anything more from you before we go into the PowerPoint?
We're all good to go. There's no imminent questions, so yeah, fire away, gents.
Okay, so folks, we're going to turn our cameras off, basically so you get the full screen of the slides. So the first thing that I'm going to talk to you about today is we're going to take a look at the classroom courses. And the first classroom course that we're going to talk about is the Kiosk Tablet and Express. So the Kiosk and Tablet units used by us at MSAB for our frontline customers are lockdown hardware and work from a custom designed workflow written specific for the customer's requirements by the MSAB Professional Services. Express uses the same workflow, but on a Windows machine, meaning that it can be used for other tasks. So coming soon is a new 2-day course, which is currently being written and developed. It's an amalgamation, effectively, of the old 1-day logical and 1-day physical courses with updates to the material for both. The Kiosk Tablet and Express training is no longer based on the license you have. Logical only, or logical and physical, the course will be 2 days long. Now to XRY certification. As has previously been with this course through its entire life cycle, there are no prerequisites to be able to take XRY certification training. Certification itself is a 3-day comprehensive XRY course, and it covers the latest techniques and best practices for identifying, collecting, and preserving digital evidence from mobile devices. For those of you who are familiar with the XRY certification course, the layout of the course will not change, but it does get updated from release to release. Passing the XRY certification course will now become a prerequisite for the XRY Pro training and the renamed XRY Pro Advanced Examiner course, which will replace the Advanced Acquisition or AA course. Examine Pro certification. Again, no prerequisites for the Examine certification course. The course itself is our intensive 2-day program that teaches you how to navigate and utilize Examine Pro, our powerful tool that helps you find and analyze data faster, easier, and with greater precision. As with XRY certification, there's no plan to change the layout of the Examine Pro training, but the course will be updated from release to release to reflect the increases in capability added for MSAB's flagship analysis tool. Passing the Examine Pro certification course will now become a prerequisite for the renamed Examine Pro Advanced Analyst course. This was formerly known as the Advanced App Analysis or AAA course. There will be a further webinar delivered by our US training team in 2 weeks' time on the newly named Advanced Training courses. XRY Pro certification. So for XRY Pro certification, attendees must have successfully completed the XRY certification training, because this is an intense course with no time available to teach the interface and options. That knowledge already needs to be in place. It's an expert level 2-day training course designed for participants who are seeking to extract critical data from the most challenging and secure mobile devices. XRY Pro is a pioneering tool when it comes to data extraction and decoding. No planned changes to the layout of XRY Pro course, but again, updates will be added with improvements to XRY and any new exploits added to Pro.
Cheers, Sean. Hi, everyone. It's Chris again, and I'll just walk you through the on-demand learning centres. So I'm going to talk you through the online courses which are available to you. Convenient, of course, for those who are unable to travel to take on classroom courses. So this is new. We'd like to introduce you to a brand new course which we've put together, the MSAB Introduction to Mobile Forensics. So we created this based on a lot of popular demand from platforms such as Discord, but we are aware that this is a fantastic stepping stone for new joiners who are entering the field of digital forensics. So with a bit of context with this, there's been plenty of classroom training that we have done previously before, where we've had customers who have only been in the job for about 1 month, 2 months, if that. So what is happening is they're coming into an XRY certification course and they don't seem to have the background knowledge which would have helped them to better understand the processes that we are applying when we are doing mobile extractions and analysis. So yeah, this is ideally why it was designed. We've spent the last 3 to 4 months putting this together. And what we've done, we've collectively within the training team and by speaking to customers, we have collected what we think new joiners would benefit from in understanding what they should know, what they need to learn before they start delving deep into data acquisition and analysis. So we'll just give you an overview of what we are going to be teaching within this course. So for new joiners, we would like to talk about the evolution of digital forensics. And this would probably stem back to the 1970s when computer forensics was on the rise. But I think it's a very good opportunity to talk about where it was that we started to how it is that we got to where we are now, because we have challenges ahead of us, such as encryption. And it's a good sort of baseline to talk about how we have managed to get to where we are now, and even talk about what the future could entail for us, the way things are progressing.
So just to step in, Chris, is this more of a sort of tool sort of neutral course? It's more about the fundamentals and basics of digital forensics rather than how to use our tools?
Yes, absolutely, Adam. That's exactly what we're planning to do here. So a lot of the content which will be in this course isn't going to be specific to what we do. It's a general overview of digital forensics. So in some respects, you can class this as potentially vendor neutral, but of course, as we go through some of the challenges within this course, you will probably notice that we will be addressing some of these challenges with our solutions. Not to say there probably are others out there, but we will, of course, be mentioning how we can assist with some of these challenges that they're coming across today. So, yeah, I think it's important as well that new joiners are aware of how a mobile device works. If they get a mobile device on their desk, what should we be thinking about? How do we handle it? Network isolation automatically comes to mind, but then we also probably need to consider what sort of what state is this device in as well. So it's those core and key components of how a mobile device works and what we should be aware about what that phone is potentially doing whilst it's sitting on their desk. So this is an introduction to mobile forensics, and this probably might start scaring some people, but ultimately we are going to be explaining file systems and deleted data, just to give the learner a basic understanding of how it is possible to recover deleted data if they are doing mobile device acquisition, but also how the file system comes into play when it comes to recovering that deleted data. And terminology. So this goes back to when I joined digital forensics and many others like us who started off in digital forensics. There are some terms getting thrown around and I wasn't aware of what they meant. So there's a steep learning curve. So we'll address the elephant in the room with this course and start explaining what these terms are, so that when they do start their first digital forensics course after this one, they should have a better understanding of what we're talking about if we do mention these terms. Of course, not to forget operating systems. I know predominantly we are dealing with Android and iOS. However, there were legacy ones. So if they happen to get an older device in front of them, at least they can appreciate that this could be a different operating system and how does that change the way we acquire that data. So device states and considerations. So we would always advocate this, especially in classrooms. So many of our customers have multiple different tools at their disposal. However, the moment a phone lands on their desk, it's really important you do your research. So what phone is it you have? Is it a smartphone? Is it a feature phone? The manufacturer is quite important, but also the chipset is really important. And we advocate you must do your research, because you can't just go to the tool of your choice expecting it to do the job you want it to. So by understanding what phone you have, you should be able to research which tool will do the best job for you. So we do advocate this in this course.
And it's even going beyond, Chris, sort of what device you've got now. It's really getting to chipset level where exploits work against. And that's where the point you're making about do your research is where you should be heading to GSM Arena and other various sites to know exactly what chipset, what device you're dealing with, and what's possible.
Yes, absolutely. So in the XOI certification, there is a specific module which talks about identifying chipsets. And you'll be surprised how many customers attend this course and it's new to them. They've been so used to, okay, I've got a Samsung Galaxy S22. I'm going to put it straight onto my tool of choice, but they haven't done the research. And the worst thing about not doing your research is if you do have that mentality where you're just going to stick it on any forensic tool without doing your research, you could end up preventing the tool which could have got the data from getting into that device. So it is important that you use the tools at your disposal, but just by doing your research, it makes a big difference. So we sort of nail that home in this course. And then not to forget the key standards in digital forensics, FRI, LOCARD, and ACPO principles. So it's important to understand how we've got to this stage as well. So there are some lessons to be learned in the history of digital forensics. And by applying these key standards towards your processes, it will help you to conduct your examinations in the best way possible without getting unstuck. If anyone tries to question your processes later on, everyone's got their own standard operating procedures. I can appreciate that, but at the same time, those were probably defined by these key standards. So we break this down in this course as well for new learners. Laboratory accreditation is mentioned. I remember joining a course 6 years ago, and they were talking about ISO, and I had no idea what they were talking about. And the reason why I probably didn't was because it didn't necessarily apply to me. However, that's not to say it wouldn't apply to the learner. So they just need to appreciate that depending on where you work in the world, depending on what unit that you're working for, you may need to be aware of these accreditations which may apply to your laboratory. So we talk about this in that course as well. So they're aware of it when they're conducting their examinations. And hashing, really important. We need to get this out of the way as soon as we can, because we appreciate we do this to verify files that we are acquiring from mobile devices or even volumes of data. However, we would then progress to move on to how we are using this to identify known files of concern. So hashing, really important. And in this course, there is a really good walkthrough example of how hashing is used to identify known files of concern. And again, vendor neutral. So we're not just using the tools that we have at MSAB. We're going to a third party tool, which is being used to hash these files. And then once they've understood those basics, then we can then move on to talk about the different acquisition methods at their disposal. So logical, physical, full file system, and discuss the pros and cons of each one. So after they've acquired the data, we've then decided it's really important to talk about the artifacts that you are recovering and the associated data which comes with them. So metadata, dates and times, let's talk about them. Let's talk about how important it is to corroborate this data and find out where it came from in the first place.
Yeah, and Chris, that's probably the biggest question our support team gets is around dates and times, about are they reliable on the handset, etc. So it's really good that that's covered in the intro to mobile forensics.
Yes, absolutely. And once you've got all this data, last but not least, we do have a module on reporting standards. Now, this is quite a broad subject. It's very hard to cater to all. And again, everyone's got their own standard operating procedures to discuss how they need to formulate their reports after they've got all the evidence they need. However, we will talk about the structure of reports and how they generally are formed. So we will cover that in some detail, including our own luxury tool of Examine Report Builder. So we will obviously introduce that because that is a significant tool in assisting investigators to report their findings. And there's more. I can't cover it all in this particular part because otherwise you probably won't need to pay for the course. I'll probably ended up teaching it here, but there is more. And we do listen to customer feedback, and it's currently in the beta phase at the moment, being tested. And of course, if there's anything that's been missed or anything which could be added, again, by listening to customers, if there's anything they can see which most people would benefit from, then we'll add it. We'll add it if the demand is there, because I think it's important that we keep up with the customers and finding out what it is they need in this course as well.
Yeah, and obviously this industry, and that's one of the reasons probably why we're all in it, because it constantly changes. Like the recent update from iOS 18, which now the user can decide to turn off Wi-Fi and airplane mode from the control center. So it's little things like that I'm hoping with this course that we update to help the guys and girls on the ground there who are facing these devices.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Adam, because this is something which is going to have to get added now in reference to that. So as you said, things are changing really quickly, so we need to be very quick in updating the material as soon as we can, so to keep up to date with it. The last thing we want to do is have a course which is falling behind. So as soon as we know of something, especially something like that, Adam, it needs to go on within the week. But yeah, depending on how much other work we've got to do, it has to be done. So that leads us on to X or Y certification. I've put this up as a little prompt for me, better than classroom training. So this isn't to say we're compromising on quality and the actual content of the course itself, but the reason why I put this up here is because there is a place for this course for those who are unable to travel to classroom courses. But is it better than classroom training? I have to admit, you are going to miss things here. And the reason why is because when you do a classroom course of MSAB, you will get hands-on with devices, and that is the best way to learn. So if you can get hands-on and solve the problems in classroom, you'll also get to hear customer experiences, their challenges, and you start coming across different solutions to these issues as well. So the learning is magnified in classroom. However, this is still a good place to do your certification because, as I said, we haven't removed material. The content is still there, but the benefit to doing this online, of course, is that it's self-paced. And although it is still self-paced, it's very convenient for those who are unable to make their way to a classroom course. So the modules and the content, like I said, it's all there. It's just been put on an online platform to assist those customers who won't be able to attend the classroom course. And where we can't get hands-on, what we've had to do is do a demonstration video. So if we're going to be talking about extraction of mobile devices, whether it's a feature phone or an Apple device, we'll do a demonstration video instead. So you'll see a complete walkthrough, a comprehensive walkthrough as well, of how we are able to get the data off these devices using XRY. To make sure that the learner is learning along with us, we will make sure there's end of module knowledge checks. They've always been there, but that's still there. And it's just to assess that the learner has digested this information that they're reading through and following throughout the course. And again, this is a lot of content we're talking about here on an online platform. So it is comprehensive, but thankfully there's a methodical way that we've done this. So it should still you should still get good success of learning well from this platform. And any issues, we have had this, don't shy away. Make sure you contact the MSAB training team if you've had any issues, or you could be going through a module when you think, actually, I'm still not comfortable with this. I'd like to know a bit more. You can just reach out to the MSAB training team We'll let you know how to contact us when you sign up for these courses, and we'll give you that support if you need it. We've also got kiosk, tablet, and express courses which you can take online as well. This is the state of the current course, and this is going on to what Sean was talking about earlier about our classroom courses. At the moment, we have them split into two: logical and physical. Logical for frontline users, limited to logical extractions. And again, we talk about how you handle devices and your considerations before you start extracting data from them. And then separate to that, we had a physical course, which when we reviewed this, again, we thought there's only a small portion of this particular course which talks about physicals to an extent. And then the rest talks about the different other techniques you can use, such as photon and application downgrades. So when we did a review of this course, we decided that we need to redevelop this as we have done with the classroom. And we're now going to combine the current logical and physical into one. So we're going to restructure the content of these courses and have it available as just the one now. And the key difference with the express courses, of course, is going to be explaining the workflows and their respective sequences. And again, when it comes to extractions of mobile devices, we will have demonstration videos to guide users how to successfully complete these extractions of mobile devices. Examine Pro, this is an echo of what I've already spoken about with XRY certification. Again, is it better than classroom training? It's the same with XRY certification. When you attend a classroom course, you will hear other customers' challenges and how they're able to find evidence. And you can go into a lot more detail about how useful these filters and these power filters that we use in Examine Pro can be applied in the real world. So we'll talk about it in this course. Again, the content hasn't been shrunk, but you will soon realize in classroom training how the features within Examine Pro can be used in real life examples. But again, this is why this is an important class to be able to have online, because again, it's self-paced and it's convenient for those who just can't turn out for a classroom course. And unlike XRY certification, where we do demonstrations of extractions, what we'll do here is demonstrate with videos how to analyze data using Examine Pro. Again, end of module knowledge checks are within Examine Pro just to make sure the learner is ingesting this information correctly as they go through. And it is broken down methodically. So this is a lot of content again in Examine Pro, and some of it is quite technical. But it is broken down methodically to help that learner make it through to the course and successfully complete it. And again, please contact the MSAB training team for additional support. If there's any issues with the online platform, or you still don't quite understand something after completing a module, not an issue. We're here to sort of help and steer you in the right direction and ensure you are learning.
Yeah, and you've done a really good job there, Chris, of summing up how both delivery methods have both got their pros and cons, depending on obviously the needs that you've got. But obviously in-person training classes, like you say, if we can produce a sort of educational video of how to use a filter, like Chris said, when you're sat in a classroom with others, they'll tell you 10 other reasons that they could use that filter. So it's really about what you can get out of the course. But if you're in a situation where you can't attend, then at least this way you're still getting the valid information as to how to get the most out of the tool. So, but it's just a good example how in person or on demand, you're still going to walk away learning more than you knew before you came on the course.
Yeah, and Adam, the amount of times I've taught this course, and I've always found a new way to apply a filter just from customer experience. So I know what a filter is designed for, but you'll hear some fantastic stories from customers as to how they actually use this filter for a specific scenario. And it's one that was probably an overthought from us, but it's you just learn as you go, and there's just extra learning in the classroom. However, this isn't to put this down at all, because this is still a fantastic way to get you certified in a convenient way.
Thanks, Chris. So over to live online training. So with the rebrand of the MSAB Training Academy, we see the return of live online training. It took a little bit of a hiatus, and this will be launched sometime in the new year. So there will now be an option to book certain MSAB courses and have them delivered live and online with an MSAB technical trainer. None of the advanced extraction courses will be run online. They're always classroom based and in person, because it's hands-on learning, and that's really required for these types of courses. This is why we restrict live online courses to mostly be the analytical courses. In these courses, there's less need for physical manipulation of hardware, and in the basic courses like XRY certification or advanced courses like the XRY Pro Advanced Examiner.
So webinars, exactly like we're doing here, I'd expect to see more of these moving forward. And the point of this really is to look after the customer post-certification. You would have had a customer possibly a year ago who's completed an XRY certification course, but since they've passed that course, things have changed. New challenges have now been presented. So we need to address our solutions as quickly as possible. And what better way to do that than to do this by a webinar, just to communicate how we are managing to solve these problems that you are encountering out there. These are interactive, of course. So as Adam mentioned, any questions you may have throughout this webinar, throw them at us and we'll do our best to answer them. And if not, we surely will get back to you. But ultimately, that is the purpose of these webinars, just to look after you post-certification.
And you make a good point, Chris, because the amount of customers I speak to who always say similar things to, I just wish it did that. And it brings me great delight when I can turn around and say, but the tool does do that now, because it's changed since they sat on their first course.
Yes. Very, very valid point.
And this is a great reason for those webinars going forward. And it just shows the sort of added content that we're giving the user base is by continuing to show them that, hey, we're listening to your feedback. We've added that to your tools so they can get the most out of them.
So additional courses. Additional courses in 2025. So in the new year, the MSAB Training Academy will be looking to add further courses to our curriculum. These courses are planned to be offshoots of the current advanced courses, aiming to add to the already high level of knowledge acquired. And as mentioned earlier, there'll be another webinar from us soon, in 2 weeks' time, discussing all things advanced in XRY and Examine.
So we'll look at the learning path. So this is going to hopefully visually represent to you how we have changed the training, and we've decided to split them into two separate paths. So we've already discussed the introduction to mobile forensics, which is a great beginner's course for those who are just starting off in digital forensics. And as we mentioned, there is a 3-day XRY certification if you do that in classroom, or you can take that online on the On-Demand Learning Centre. Just to let you know as well, what we are potentially planning to do is have introduction to mobile forensics potentially a prerequisite for a 2-day XRY certification classroom course. We think this is a fantastic option because it will give the learners a very good understanding of the concepts that we apply into digital forensics and when we are extracting data. And that introduction to mobile forensics course gives us the option to condense XRY certification down to 2 days, which may be beneficial to some organizations out there. So you now get to choose which path you'd like to take. So if you are an examiner who will only really be dealing with mobile devices, then you could potentially take the examiner track. So you would complete the XRY certification to then go on to do the XRY Pro certification and the advanced examiner courses. So forgive the colors, because when I saw this, I sort of saw the analyst track is going to the dark side. But the analyst track isn't that. It's just another path for you to take if you are not going to be dealing with mobile device extractions. It's the path you would take if you're just going to be dealing with analyzing the data to find the evidence. So we have the correct courses available to you to make sure that you are fully equipped to find that evidence really quick. And this poster, of course, is just to promote what we have done and the direction that we are going. There are two courses that you probably have noticed here, which are the advanced courses, but our American trainers will talk about this in their webinar in 2 weeks' time. So hopefully we'll see you there for that.
So conclusions. As Adam mentioned before, the flyers are already in the handouts portion of the software. They're in English. If you want them in an additional language, please reach out and let us know, and we'll do what we can to help. And as we've just said, and Chris said, there'll be more follow-up webinars in future as the MSAB Training Academy takes shape and more courses or updated content is added. Over to you, Adam.
I was busy typing away because a question had snuck in. So the flyer for the initial foundation course, where's the flyer for the initial foundation course? So in the handouts, the initial foundation one isn't there yet, is it? Because it's still in beta, so it's not fully published, if I'm right, guys.
Yeah,
I think that's correct. Yeah,
that's correct.
And the other question is, the analyst track, does that focus on the final report? And I think what they mean is, does that part feature delivering a final report using Report Builder, I'm guessing?
The final report, I'm assuming, would be you would be creating a report just on completion of the Examine Pro certification, because we end that course talking about how to report your findings. So just by taking Examine Pro certification, you should already be in good stead to create a very good report. But the analyst track, the path that you could take, just talks you through the advanced ways you can start looking for data. So Examine Pro, we talk about the decoded data that we present to you for you to easily see using our lovely, friendly GUI. However, that's not to say there's potentially more data that's been recovered, but we just haven't been able to present that to you. So by going on to the advanced courses, we will show you how to carve out the extra data, not just from the device, but of course the third-party apps. That's the idea behind that.
Yeah, and they've come back just to clarify that when they get the extraction of data and get all the tags on the report.
Yes, so that's again on its own, because the Examine Pro certification talks about how to navigate the Examine Pro interface. You should be able to create those tags and reports anyway. So at the basic level, Examine Pro certification covers all of that. When you go into the advanced courses, then we start looking at Python scripts and other additional ways for you to get that data. But if you tune in for part 2 in a couple of weeks' time, that should hopefully all address that for you.
Perfect. And they've thanked us for clarifying it. And I'm going to throw a question here. Obviously, we've gone through the intro to mobile forensics. Do we talk about event sort of log keeping and making notes of all our actions?
In the introduction to mobile forensics, yes, key standards. We talk about the importance of making sure that you are creating a log. Very important. We're making significant changes now to mobile devices, and we need to make sure that we are ensuring when we're making notes as to why we are making those changes, of course, which goes without saying, really important in case it gets questioned later on.
Perfect. And that's obviously the fundamentals of mobile forensics and would go in the final report. But I think we are now out of any questions and Q&A. And we want to, here at MSAB, we want to thank you for taking the time. We know how time is precious when you've got so many devices in backlogs and how busy your lives are. But thank you from all of us here at MSAB for joining us for today's webinar. And like the guy said, keep your eyes peeled for up and coming webinars from MSAB. But just like to take the opportunity to say thank you to Sean and Chris for giving up their time to deliver an introduction to our new way to train in mobile forensics.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you to everyone else who's listened in tonight.
Yeah, what Chris said.
Thanks all. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.